breadth should be. EU has got some, specification of the cucumber specification. So the Britain seems to be upset about it. It's as an illustration, not. And otherwise, fiscal deficit, interest rate, everything is decided at EU. And Italy used to fudge the numbers and provide it to EU. And that came to be known much later. Italy's fiscal deficit was much higher at 8%, but it used to show it as 3% by fudging the numbers. So all these things were taking place. Britain left. Now, many of the other countries are also, for instance, Poland is questioning why should EU laws cannot be dominant to our Polish laws. So the sovereignty is again what you may loosely call having its own importance. The Westphalian consensus we talked about last time, and that is what every country feels that we should. Trump is a good example of, he is not for globalization or anything. He's actually withdrew from WHO. He would have, if he had continued, he would have withdrew from WTO also. He was very, and the United Nations, he was not very enthusiastic at all. So he felt many of these global organizations are all just talking shops and trying to, and they take a lot of money from US and finally abuse US itself. So that was the type of a thing. Europe is in a big turmoil economically. Yesterday we saw demographic problems also. And now there is another dimension, radical Islam and the Western countries. The Europe is facing some of these major problems. Some of you may be, I'm sure, reading about it, and a lot of problem of London is humorously referred to as Londonistan. Europe itself is called Eurobia, actually. So that is what is the nature, and China is now trying to become the leader of the globalization. And China says we will be the leader and we will lead globalization on our terms. That is what is worrying to everybody. Not that globalization per se, what is Chinese terms are. And for instance, even this simple thing like this COVID, even today it is not clear whether it was deliberately spread by China or whether it escaped from the lab or it was a natural. China is not encouraging anyone to do a study on this. The WHO team went to China. They were done some conducted tour. I don't know how many of you had occasion to visit a temple called Tirupati. There the fellow will stand and then say, Jarigande, Jarigande, go away, go. He will push you, actually. You can't spend even 3 seconds before the God. He will. Same way China did vis-a-vis their Wuhan laboratory. People are not allowed to even step in, and conducted tour. And then, so China is not treated as a reliable leader. And this simple thing like this COVID also. And not only that, China arm twisted WHO to call it as corona or COVID. Every other, when encephalitis, the pig disease originated in Japan, it was called Japanese encephalitis. The flu originated in Spain, it was called Spanish flu in those days. And then the river Ebola was named Ebola was, but in this case, China told you cannot call it Chinese virus. You have to call it by some other name. And so this COVID was, and then now they are talking about some variations of COVID, and somebody is telling Indian variant of COVID, another thing. All sorts of things are happening, but China is laughing, having the last laugh. So this is what is a major thing. The last one, war between Islam and West, is a very major type of a crisis. You might have read in the paper, Turkey has expelled actually significant number of, and there is also a concern that Turkey may leave NATO even. Turkey is not wanting to identify itself with Europe anymore. So that is another. Turkey, Malaysia and Pakistan, they are all forming one type of a grouping. And Turkey has also been, we will see later, put into the blacklist, grey list by the FATF, Financial Action Task Force. And so there is a huge churning taking place in the West. One doesn't know what shape it will take, whether it will be actually what Huntington called in 1991 as the clash of civilizations, or whether it will, one doesn't, And the adding fuel to fire is the issue of Afghanistan. What is going to come out there? What is going to, how it is going to develop? How it will have implication for the West Asian countries? All these issues are open-ended. Next. Now the regulation is geographically and business-wise, financial sector regulation. Geographically mean US is regulated by their own SEC. India is regulated by Security Exchange Board. And business-wise, banking regulation is separate, insurance regulation is separate. In 93, a tripartite group of banking, securities and insurance, they were set up by Bank of International Settlement in that similar to your Basel norm, and they decided that there should be some amount of commonality in regulation for the financial conglomerate. A financial conglomerate are defined to be active in two different financial services of banking, securities, and insurance. Any two, they should be involved. Then they are called financial conglomerate. There is a lot of problem because intermediaries are all going away. Brokers, insurance agent, traditional banks, all these are disappearing because of the arrival of technology. Breakdown of national barriers, because one country stock is getting listed somewhere else. So you can sit in New York and buy a Bombay share. You can sit in Bombay and then invest in certain mutual funds of other countries and other things. So this is what is happening. Now the G20 wants to improve upon it all. We will just see that actually. How to regulate this financial industry. Next. Regulatory challenge is very common. Balance between regulation and development. And the balance between national financial and global financial. This is another very important thing. Many of the national financial services do not want their powers to go away. So they would like to keep their power. So, and then consumer and the firms. Consumer interest is predominant, but the firms are very big, dominant. So they are able to arm twist. They can, as an individual consumer, my ability is maximum. I can write a complaint in the newspaper or something, or send a letter to the minister or something. But the big firms have huge amount of resources. They can employ the best chartered accountant, best lawyers, and that is the type of a thing. So the regulator has to play an important role in protecting the interest of consumers who do not have the wherewithal or who do not have the money power to go for the best lawyers, best chartered accountant and other thing. Next. Tax havens have started playing a very major role in the global financial architecture. And they have become major focus after 9/11 and the meltdown in financial market in 2008. Many tax havens are existing, roughly of the order of 70. In the earlier time, many of them used to advertise in internet. Come to us. We are the best tax haven in the world, like that and other thing. Soliciting actually customers. We will provide you lawyer. We will provide you chartered accountant. Now, last 4-5 years, they are now telling we are not tax havens. We are actually good people. We do only best business and other thing. Everybody is don't want to be called a tax haven anymore. This is something where that's how they used to be called modern financial centers, believe me, in the early 2000s. Innovative financial center. There was a seminar at Salzburg in 2002 or something, I remember. I participated in that. I gave a paper about harmful effect of tax havens on developing countries. Literally, I was thrown out of the conference. Thrown out means they didn't throw me out. I told, why are you coming and if you want, you also start a tax haven. Why are you coming and complaining? These are most modern centers and most innovative. Like that, they were arguing. Today, the same people, tax havens are not called anymore tax havens. They are called illicit financial center. More than that, many of the established literature of IMF and World Bank calls them as secretive financial centers. And recently, IMF told the time has come to close down all these tax havens. So I wrote to some of the professors who participated with me in 2002, how is your situation now? Are you still calling them innovative? And they told, they call me Nathan, they told you are being very, mischievous. See, what I want to stress is, the terminology used changes according to the situation. If it is convenient to them, they would call Taliban as a good terrorist, good fellows. As one of the famous dialogue goes that he is what one can call, he is a killer or is a dacoit, but he is our dacoit, our bastard dacoit. Let us keep him with us, like that. So the terminology also is a function of you know how the developing situation. Next, we can go. A country with no taxes or levies, low taxes, is called a tax haven in the layman's language. It's synonymous with offshore. Almost all of them are seashore. Actually, sea coast, you can go and enjoy there, except Switzerland, which is in a mountainous region where you can do the skiing only. And Indians are much more fascinated with Switzerland, whatever be the reason. One doesn't know about it. They are because the Swiss private banking fellow told 50% of illegal money is kept by Indians. 50%, 50% he told some 7, 8 years before in a conference actually. The roughly 70 are there, but exact nature is not clear because as I told you, some of them are claiming we are not tax haven anymore, another thing. Next, this is the list. You can have a look at that. A for Angola, Antigua, and Barbuda, like that, and Z for Zimbabwe. All of them is covered actually. Belgium, Hungary, Ireland, all these countries. Many of them I have never heard about in geography, but looking at the tax haven, I suddenly realized some of them are very, very small islands actually. They give you a passport. In case of crisis in your country, you can visit them and live till death there. You can't do anything there other than seashore. You sit there and read some books or something. That's all you can do. There is no other major activity there, and they don't have, most of them don't have any extradition treaty with others. So there is no question of bringing you back. Some of you might have been seeing television. I do not know. This Choksi is there in Antigua. Off and on, he comes on a wheelchair, and people thought that he is going to come back to India. And in the written history, no individual has ever been brought out from a tax haven to the host country. Individual. Money has come, but I am talking about people. And for instance, London, the Malaya is sitting in London. So many others are sitting in London. And that Modi is sitting in another tax haven. And recently, some of you would have read this Neera Radia, one of the communication expert with the Tatas. She was being, looked after, searched by enforcement directorate. She has gone to London. So this is what is, all over. Next, you can go. Very, very. Raymond Baker is one of the pioneers in this area. He has written a book also. Very, very interesting book. Dirty Money and How to Renew the Free Market System. Anyhow, he says there are, in Caribbean as a whole, had 500,000 tax entities registered there. More were being formed at a rate of nearly 200,000 per year. That is, every post box is a entity which is depositing money. Total is by maybe 1 million actually. When Obama was contesting election, he told in Bahamas a single building had 28,000 addresses of people who have got the funds there, post bag type of thing. Actually, within US itself, there are plenty of tax havens. Many of the smaller states provide you benefits and advantages in terms of tax havens within US. And England is considered as one of the major tax havens because the advantage is they don't consider tax evasion to be a crime. In UK, tax evasion is not a crime. Many of the judges say tax evasion is very normal human instinct. So you have to prove some other thing like some criminal activity associated with that or something like that in order to. And anyhow, you have to file cases and it will go on for years and years. And if they are citizen of that country, of these small islands and other things, then it becomes much more difficult. Okay, next. Definition. One of the important definition is to understand tax haven is not something like a fringe element or something. Half of the world trade passes through tax haven on paper at least. If I send, for instance, banana is produced in one of the Latin American countries. Before it comes to England, it passes through what are called Virgin Islands. And if you send from India some textiles or something to US, and it passes through Cayman Island on paper, it is not necessarily physical goods are moving. Half of all banking transaction take place through tax zones. You go to State Bank of India and provide some 1 lakh rupees in order to send it to US, then it will pass through tax zone before it lands at US. And the one third of the, now today's it is two third actually, investment by MNCs are all routed offshore. If you look at Indian FDI and FII, significant portion of that will be coming through Mauritius or Cyprus or some of those country routes. So this is what is the because they provide, Mauritius for instance provide zero tax for their thing, and so it's advantageous to create a structure in Mauritius and through Mauritius bring it. And double taxation treaty says the lower of the taxes will be the one which will be enforced. Obviously, zero is lower than any percentage of taxes you want to enforce here in terms of the benefits. Or so this is the US Government Accountability Office says almost every US company has got one, minimum one subsidiary. Some of them have got hundreds of subsidiaries in tax havens. Next, the recently I told you OECD as well as Financial Action Task Force have taken it very seriously, and they have prepared a list, what are called blacklist, grey list, and non-cooperative list and other thing. And this goes on changing. This list is slightly earlier, 5, 6 years before. Now, many countries have come out of grey list, gone into white list. Some of the blacklist countries have also, Malaysia has come out of that. So this periodically, once in 6 months, once in a year, it changes. There was one Bergen conference. I was also a member in that FATF at Bergen University is located at Norway. So at that time it was initiated actually this. There are certain parameters, 28 parameters you have to follow in order not to be classified as a tax haven. And recently, Pakistan has been a grey list for quite some time. India has been trying to push it to blacklist, but we have not succeeded because China and others are in the sitting in the FATF. They would not easily allow that. Anyhow, it's in the grey list, and Turkey has recently been added to the grey list. Basically, these 28 parameters are not being followed mean that that mean how transparent you are, how much you are acting against black money, which is coming into your country, how much you are having regulations regarding terror financing. All those requirements are there. Non-cooperative that time were, many of these countries have become cooperative now. As I told you, nobody wants to be called a tax haven today. Everybody wants to be known as a clean country. We are not anymore, even though they don't, they are not clean, but at least they would like to claim to be clean. Next. IMF estimated, this was around 2010-11, 18 trillion was the global amount, excluding Switzerland, China, Taiwan, and this Middle East countries. Now it is estimated to be roughly 30 trillion. 50% of the global GDP, you can call it roughly. Indian funds is estimatedly 1.5 trillion. 1,000 billion makes a trillion, and 100 crore make a billion. Those who have got space in the calculator can compute and multiply it with 75 to get rupees. So this is these are obviously estimates. These are not exact figure. And in Indian case, other than the illicit funds kept abroad, we also have large amount of rubies, pearls, diamonds. All those things are also kept in the lockers of global bankers. Not yesterday or day before. It is started from 19th century. Many of the Samasthanam, many of these kingdoms, they were not very sure about the stability of the country. And whenever you are uncertain about stability of your regime, or then you tend to accumulate more in the outside. So returns are not very much. Most of the tax havens don't provide more than 0.5% or returns are not there. India provides a much better return. That is how there are a lot of talk that some of the Indian money is coming back again from the tax haven in the form of foreign institutional investment. So this is getting back into the country, rerouted into India. And what do they do with this money? Some of them put their children into US universities at expensive medical or law school and other things. They are very, very expensive. Some of them even donate funds to the foreign universities and then create one chair in their name, or and then the university MIT or Harvard, any of them will put a garland on your neck and then invite you as long as you provide funds. They would say that every year 4 students you can nominate for our programs. So these are otherwise local travel when you go there, and then and sometime I do not know how much it is true. Sometime it is told some leaders die without passing on the information to their wife or children or something. Some political leaders. One Andhra Pradesh chief minister died in an air crash. That time there was a talk that huge amount of funds he has accumulated abroad, but he has not passed it on to his children, wife, or keeper, whoever it is. Nobody has informed. So that means what do this bank do? They put a small notice if you don't operate beyond 3 years. They say that you have not operated, so your funds will be absorbed by the bank. The banker actually follows it. Swiss banks have fattened themselves significantly because of non in the sense because of the customers not operating or dying. Or now there is a rule in Switzerland. 100 years later, it will go to the government of Switzerland. Now, 1920, it started mostly for the Jews who were affected in Germany. And many of that money, which was swallowed by the Swiss banks, is now going back to the Swiss government. And the banks are upset. They are all asking the Swiss government to increase it to 150 years because good portion of the bank reserve is coming out of these funds which were not operated by the leaders of the other countries. Anyhow, so we will go to the next. There are a lot of success stories are there. US did vis-a-vis UBS. UBS, I'm sure many of you would have heard about it. One of the second largest global bank in the world. It is based out of Switzerland. It is operating in US that time. And it was operating what is called briefcase banking. It will go to US, identify customers, ask them to put money in UBS, and that will be basically not taxed in US, not even sometime revealed in US actually. US, there are regulations like again about $10,000. If you pull it out of US, you have to inform the regulator, and many of them were not. So UBS was fattened on the US, and large number of even middle class, upper middle class, rich people have put money in UBS. US was very upset somewhere around 2007, 8, and they pulled the plug on UBS. They arrested 2 senior executives of UBS in US, put them into jail. They are very, very top number 2 and number 3. Switzerland was unbelievably upset because nobody has ever touched any Swiss bankers or anybody like this and other thing. And they asked what is the issue. Then US told no. This was by the Justice Department in US. Kindly note, not the regular income tax or revenue service. Justice Department is much more what you may loosely call brutal compared to the revenue department. So then they told 56,000 US citizens are holding money in UBS without the regulation in US knowing. You give all the names. And they were shocked actually. 350 years Switzerland is doing this business of keeping other people's illicit money. Nobody has ever dared to ask them any question because Switzerland was always considered as a neutral country. Even during Second World War, First World War, they never involved themselves in any war. They collected money which was coming and kept in their bank. That's their main activity. So when the names were asked, they told, finally, UBS was fined 800 million US dollar. 800. They paid it, the fine. And then the US asked to give me the names. Now, UBS was telling, what is this rubbish? We paid the fine. You paid the fine for doing the illegal activity, but names you have to give. Then a lot of negotiation went on. Switzerland, there is a issue in their constitution, not in the Banking Regulation Act. In their constitution, it is prohibited to reveal name of any individual doing financial transaction in Switzerland. Suppose I am having a cup of coffee with some Swiss banker in Zurich or something. You cannot casually mention one of your country's film actor or cricketer is having some amount of money in my bank. He can be put inside jail. So it's in their constitution, kindly remember. So the Swiss has to amend the constitution to meet the requirement of US. So they told they are in the process of doing it. Finally, US settled about 450 critical names who are above certain net worth. So that is a US could do it. US is a big gorilla, they can arm twist. Germany did with Liechtenstein. Some of you would know Liechtenstein is adjacent, it's not a huge territory or anything. It should be the area of this RRU, this what one can call your university area, maybe. And Liechtenstein, the prince, the bank, everything is Liechtenstein. And German people who are holding money in Liechtenstein, you can drive in the car, go to the adjacent country, and then deposit the money. This was going on from the 50s. But see, as long as the going is good, nobody was bothered about it. But post 2009, 8, there were huge amount of what one can call complaints and shouts by the middle class and the media and other. When you are asking us to tighten our belt, we are cutting our pension, but our people are keeping illegal money in Liechtenstein. So this became a big issue. So the equivalent of RAW in or CIA in Germany, they hired a group of thieves, actually, dacoits, who went into Liechtenstein bank in the night and stole all the data. In those days, it was not in this UBS type of thing, pen drive. It was a huge amount of tapes, round tapes, and then they brought it out. And Liechtenstein was making a huge cry. Our sovereignty is affected, and we will complain to UN. And Germany told, just keep quiet, shut up. You stole our money, we stole your data. That's all, matter closed. And then what happened? This was leaked to the press. I'm sure deliberately leaked, and it got published. The number one was the Deutsche Bank, Gimawald. He was the head of the Deutsche Post, like our Director General of Indian Post and Telegraph. He was the head. He was the number one. And then a lot of people, including our, tennis stars like Boris Becker and so many people's names came, and all of them have to settle it. And it became a very big issue in Germany. And the third one, I have not mentioned, France and HSBC. Two kids of HSBC who were working as trainees, they stole a lot of data from HSBC Geneva branch and ran away to Libya. Of all the countries, they settled in Libya. And they told, we will sell this. And France purchased it actually from them. And India also got some portion of the information from France. Anyhow, so that is the type of, different countries dealing with it. Philippines slogged for it a good number of years, roughly 18 years actually. You might have heard about Marcos and Imelda Marcos. They got some money, 64 million, held by Ferdinand Marcos in Swiss bank account. Actually, turning into billions. Peru recovered. Nigeria recovered. Jews, of course, they have a powerful lobby now in the world. They got back all the funds which were deposited during Hitler time, and then the successors of them were not able to get it. Recent is Tunisia. Their Zain Ben Ali's account was frozen. Egypt, Hosni Mubarak. Benazir Bhutto of Pakistan. Haile Baby Doc Duvalier, Haiti's, you might have heard about him. He gave something like $40 million to Mother Teresa, this dictator. And she was supposed to use it for poor people in India. She put it in Vatican Bank, and that bank is bust. So that is a separate story. Anyhow, that is the story of our Angel Teresa. Then politically exposed persons, freezing of asset is taking place in many countries. India is a signatory to the anti, corruption and of the United Nations. So it is what I want to stress is it is not impossible to get funds out of these tax zones. You may not get the human beings. That's very, very difficult. But why we don't require the human being? What we want is our money from there. That is more. But unfortunately, we are more focusing on getting the human being back. That's our what one can I can lightheartedly say. We always focus on immaterial and inconsequential. We never focus on the major meat or what is that. So the funds are more important. So it is possible for us to, that what we are arguing, that it's not something impossible or something. Next, corporates are using the tax havens for the last 10 years. Ownership structures are very, very complex and obscure. Hundreds of subsidiaries, and most of these corporates use tax haven not to pay any taxes in their mother country. Amazon has paid few $1,000 in US as tax. It's such a global company. Microsoft aggregate tax paid is less than the perquisite given for their senior executives. So they show huge amount of the revenue in the tax havens. Next, 10% of the world's corporation are part of multinational groups, but 60% of the trade is intra-group deals. That means Pfizer Germany is selling to Pfizer India, like that. It's intra-group. They claim arm's length, but mostly it is not arm's length. And much of the sale is routed through the tax haven. Next. Most large corporations have subsidiaries in tax haven. 72% of the Fortune 500. They have 7,600 subsidiaries in tax haven. You might have heard about Big Four chartered accounting firms. Am I right? Who are one of the major ruling in the world actually. They are called Big Four. KPMG and this, what you call, Deloitte and, even in India, they are one of the major consultant for Government of India and other thing. One of them is consultant to Government of India on the tax havens. All these Big Four are registered in tax havens. That is the most important and interesting thing. They have huge amount of subsidiaries. Anyhow, it's all right. Next. See, this is the list. Apple has booked 181 billion offshore. That's one of the topmost companies. It would owe 59 billion US taxes in case they have shown all these revenues in US. American Express, 3 billion. All this list is very large. Nike correspondingly for their countries. PepsiCo, same thing. Pfizer, one of the largest drug makers. It has 151 subsidiaries in tax havens. Morgan Stanley, which is one of the major consulting company for dealing with the tax haven, it has got 200 subsidiaries in offshore tax havens. Next. Citigroup, 427 subsidiaries, disclosed only 41. And that also in 2014. We will come to how the US government is upset and other things. From 2010 onwards, every US president is upset with this major multinational corporation. Because they are name-wise. Bank of America is supposed to be an American bank, but it pays practically nothing in the US in the form of taxes. Google, it has 25 subsidiaries. They disclosed only 2. Very recently, it was found out they have 70 subsidiaries. There, they were caught, told off, and then there was a investigation. And you might have seen in the television the Senate committee also questioning them. Another thing, one of the Indian person is heading it now, Alpha Pichai. He is the one who has to respond to these things. Microsoft, same thing. Further, fast. So many companies. So, what is the new financial architecture? Secrecy, privacy to transparency and integrity. This is what is insisted upon by the FATF as well as by the OECD and G7. 4 major aspects of it. Mispricing of trade imports and exports. If I import something for 10 rupees, I can't tell my customer, bill it for 12 rupees, and the 2 rupee you put it in my account abroad. That is called mispricing. Similarly, if I sell something for 10 rupees, I tell my customer, I will bill you for only 8 rupees, but the value is 10 rupee. So kindly put 2 rupee into my account in tax haven. So this is called import and export, under invoicing and over invoicing. This is how roughly 60% of the illicit global finance is accumulated by the respective countries. And I am talking about 10 rupee. You can imagine if you are dealing in terms of a couple of $1 million of import and export. So this mispricing has to go. In other words, whatever is exported from India, if it is matched with what is imported by US, it should tally. And that is where the technology comes into being in terms of the financial transactions getting more or less evened out nowadays. This is something very, very important. The technology will play a very major role in terms of um, highlighting and transparently telling what is exported, what is imported, and matching between the two. This will take place within a matter of hours actually now. So this is what FATF is, and country by country accounting of sales, profits, and taxes. You may operate in 100 countries. You can't just publish your annual report telling Asian uh, sales is so much. No, you must tell how much in Thailand, how much is in India, how much is in, and every country how much profit you are making, what you are manufacturing, what you sold. So country by country accounting is also becoming important, and the banks are expected to immediately inform. If I am a Indian citizen, I go to a bank in Europe or any place and then deposit some dollar amount. It should immediately be informed to the Central Bank of India that one citizen of your country, nothing criminal or anything, information, instantaneous information should be provided. Next, confirmation of beneficial ownership. You should not encourage this lawyer and accountant starting an account. Who is the actual owner? Should be made for better tax revenue for the host country as well as the receiving country. Automatic cross-border exchange of information. I told you immediately they should communicate to the host country. And harmonization of offenses. That is, London cannot say tax evasion is okay, we don't mind, it's not a crime. And India telling tax evasion is not proper, it's a crime. No. All countries should sit together and have a proper understanding of what is the civil crime and what is the nature of the punishment and other thing. So this is what is the overall discussion which is taking place. I told you based upon the Bergen, Norway declaration, and some of this will be implemented. I'm very, very sure, because a lot of the richer countries themselves want some amount of orderliness. Over and above all this, every country is now 134 countries have signed last week actually. G7, OECD. They say every corporate must pay a minimum tax of 15% in the country of origin. 15% of their country of origin is defined in terms of where their activity is more than 25% and other thing, all that. So this is something which is going to be enforced, and it will alter the entire global financial system and global financial. And obviously, big companies are lobbying, and big companies are big financiers for political parties in all countries, Germany, France, UK, USA. So we have to wait and see how much, how it develop. I'm sure it will become a significantly very major issue by the end of the year. Next. So the future secretive jurisdiction are possible. It's not very easy. Incidentally, there was a move, I can share it with you. India should also have a tax haven in Andaman. This was in the beginning of this 90s actually. And there were a lot of discussion and other thing. And some presentation was made to our Prime Minister also. then Prime Minister, Charan Singh. He was a very interesting Prime Minister. He had never visited southern part of the country. He was the only one PM who had never stepped into the southern portion of the country at all. He became PM. Then all the discussion took place. The anecdotal evidence suggests, I do not know, I was not present there, but one of the bureaucrat mentioned later, it appears he asked, Andaman is a good place, etc., but will Sri Lanka agree for it? And people were shocked actually, because he didn't know that Andaman belongs to anyhow. That was I do not know how much it is true or anything. Anyhow, the idea of starting a tax haven never got a good start. So US, Germany, France, all for regulating and restricting tax haven. And incidentally, Russia, China, and India are the three major contributors to tax havens. All the political leaders of all these three countries are absolutely corrupt. One can use that word strongly. And most of the money is kept by these leaders there. And various reasons are given. Another thing, Chinese leaders are telling we are uncertain, we do not know when we will be shot dead or when we will be, our property will be confiscated. Another, Indians claim that the taxes are very heavy here. Another thing, and the Russians, of course, are traditionally interested in overseas investment. So there is a clamor to abolish them. G20, G20, 37, 136 nations. I told you minimum tax of 15%. Global recession and anger on the illegal money. You see, every country is passing through difficult financial situation, particularly post Chinese virus. So many countries are cutting down on their pension, cutting down on their jobs, and so these uh, average citizen is angry when we are asked to sacrifice so much. Why the thinking rich fellows should keep money abroad? And terrorism is also a major concern, because some of the funds are routed through the tax havens, so that it is not very easy to trace it. Another thing, emerging markets, emerging market being countries like India, China, Brazil, and all these small countries, developing countries, because every $1 of aid what we get, supposedly free from white countries, $10 is sent as illicit money. So it is not something like a big deal or something. They announce with pompous announcement comes, 1 million will be provided as free aid to some country, Nigeria or Sudan or Uruguay or something. And then from that country they remove something like $10, and the leaders of that country, or so they have to have a coordinated effort. So the tax haven, not the illicit wealth, not just the illicit wealth. Most important is the rightful owners are the ordinary citizens of our country. The telawala, the puchka sellers, the retail sellers, the servant maid, these are the people who have been cheated in terms of sending money abroad and other things. So this is what we have to. I'm sure in the coming year, there is going to be huge amount of changes in the global financial system, because a lot of the richer countries are taking very serious steps against some of these abuse of global financial system, and so that will alter the paradigm in which we are operating. I can assure you on that. And in the process, we may also get some funds from somebody else might hit something else in these tax havens, and they may decide to open up, in which case we will also get some. And from India, judges, cops, bureaucrats, political leaders, film actors, sports people, all have kept money abroad. And this is one of the most secular activity, illicit money kept abroad. It is, Rajput should know, all caste have kept. All religious fellows have kept. No distinction. All regional fellows have kept. Andhra fellows have kept. Tamil Nadu fellows have kept. Assam fellows have kept. So this is something which is extremely uniting us in our. So two things. One is the domestic bribery. Another is the external illicit funds. This is a. Somebody asked me what is the most secular activity. I told this is the one I can think of, actually, cutting across all barriers. Nobody is trying to find fault with anybody else. But this will alter. So we would benefit, I am sure. Huge amount of funds will come back to us in the next 2-3 years. And that will obviously boost our economy in terms of the investment and other activities. Okay. I think I have exceeded the time nearly. Okay. Shraddha, thank you very much. Our
Thank you so much, sir, for a very intensive and engaging talk.
yeah,
Global finance is not something which most people are keen on, but after listening to you today and even yesterday, I'm sure it sparked interest among students to take this subject matter seriously.
very good.
And also, sir, I want to thank you for being so accommodative and cooperative, and
No,
I'm playing along with our
Shraddha,
frequency.
your wish is my command. We want to obey Nepalese and Sikkimese, right?
Thank you so much,
Northeast
sir.
is our strength. I'm telling you seriously, right? They're getting a lot of medals from abroad in sports. Very good.
Take
Actually.
some questions quickly.
Sure.
Yes, sir, we'll do
Yeah.
that.
And
Any
then you
questions?
arrange according to your convenience if it is
Yeah.
required, right? Any informally later. Now
Vaidyanathan
you
sir,
can
would you
any
like
questions?
to Vaidyanathan sir, would you like to react to what Professor God said initially?
Yeah, that I mentioned that in the earlier also. It is required for us to have but it is very difficult to have a significant amount of training program and other thing. The Indians are, I'm seriously telling, are very good in, what one can call handling all these instruments and other thing, according to me. I'll give you an example. Originally, this company, Maruti got alliance with the Suzuki, and the Japanese parent allotted huge amount of budget to be training the Indians about, they thought they came to India and saw that ambassador car, and they opened the bonnet and saw only one wire running from one place to another. And they told, oh, this country, how are we going to sell our sophisticated, this, the time itself it was considered, as electronic, this and other. And kindly note, when their finance director came to India much later, he mentioned in a meeting in among some professors like us, they spent only 25% of that training budget. He says, you people are very good on their own, on the job training. Most of the, these fellows in small towns also, they learned how to repair and how to, rectify mistakes and all these thing of this. We thought it is complicated, but so let's be very clear. We are not inventors, but we are much more in terms of assimilating and then in terms of using the product. So over period, I was telling to, if I remember, Kritika, I think, uh, Kritika, or I don't know, the Saha, the large number of poorer people don't come under the list of people getting cheated in using many of these so-called products. Who comes mostly is middle class, and NRCB data you can actually analyze. Poorer people are very careful, extremely, they are actually they are suspicious of many of these fellows and other things. And so there is a good need for training. On that, I don't have any doubt about it. And it has to be inculcated. But by and large, people are, unless, as I told, if you want to lose money, nothing can prevent you from. And people want to take huge amount of risk and other thing. That is not a very desirable thing. Right? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Somebody else?
Any other questions?
Sangwan, you want to ask something? No. Preeti Sangwan. No. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah, Deepak.
Deepak?
sir, very small question, but I think it is relevant to the topic.
Sure.
Once financial fraud is taking place, government and concerned agencies are working a lot. But when we think about the recovery rate, still we people are working our best. How we can increase and how we can maximize our efforts in
Yeah. See,
bringing
basically, sir, Deepak Patel, one thing we have to recognize, our judicial system is broke.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay. Criminal cases 1974 we are handling today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
1984 Indira Gandhi, after her death, a lot of violence took place, and those are not yet settled.
Right, sir.
Right. So we are very, our judicial system is extremely slow. And in one seminar, I told, if you are not very fast, justice delayed is justice denied. One
Yes.
judge stood up and told Professor, justice hurried is justice buried. So we
Yes,
should
sir.
not hurry. We should take our own time. Our own time means what? If I file a case today, in my next birth, we believe in rebirth, right, in India. So the next birth, it will be sorted out. The lawyer will become the judge, judge will become the accused will become the cop, like that round. I'll tell
Yes,
you
sir.
why.
That is the point.
I'll tell you a simple example how the judicial system is broke. This man was standing in the court. The judge told, how old are you? He told 72 or something. Shameful. You are standing here for attempting to kiss a girl, right? Are you not ashamed? If you are 20, I would have agreed. There's some temptation and young age, and at your age, why did you want to do this? The man told, sir, I attempted it when I was in 20. Now only the case comes to you for hearing. What do I do about it? You got the point?
Yes, sir. Definitely, definitely.
You should, I am telling you the number of cases, if you look at it, goes to
Yes,
million.
sir.
Supreme Court itself has got 65 or 70,000 cases. You
We
do a
barely
single
need to come up with those points.
that is the see, we require swift and severe punishment.
Right, sir.
We don't require many more laws or anything. Enough laws are there in our country. I'm telling.
Yes,
We are
sir.
not weak in laws. Swift and severe punishment. No case should take more than 2 to 3 years. And again, severe punishment. What is the point? If somebody has looted a bank for 10,000 crore, what is the point in telling you pay a fine of 60 lakh or something? He will pay it. It's his pocket money. You should put him inside. Not a single person from Arshad Mehta to today has been put inside in the financial sector in India. There you see Rajat Gupta was the leading light. He was sent inside. They don't hesitate. Of course, here when I mentioned this, one judge told even in criminal cases we don't put inside people. And nowadays they say bail is the norm and jail is rarity in the earlier times. But many of the jails are becoming now resorts. Jails are better than being outside. You get television, you get telephone facility, you get homemade food, and actually it is better to be inside than outside today.
Sir,
Many courts are now not giving bail. They say be inside.
sir,
No,
just,
no. Unless and until we tackle head on our judicial system, nothing will change in our country.
Right, sir. Right.
That's all.
God, sir.
Right?
God.
Gaur,
Sir.
you agree with me, sir?
sir, I just wanted to ask you, under the circumstances you are explaining, and we are also venturing into for throughout our services, is it not the right time for the amendment of CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code, as far as the question of, you can say, financial frauds or financial cases are concerned? I think it is the right time to amend the IPC as well as CRPC.
100% I am with you, Gaur.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir.
What
Thank
is
you, sir.
required is the political will.
Yes, sir.
How the criminals will amend the criminal procedure code? You tell me. 90% of the fellows
It
in
is it is the
assembly and parliament are criminals actually.
I
You
know,
look
sir.
at the data. I'm not talking out of the hat or something. Association of
69%, sir.
Democratic Reform, they bring out a data based upon the filing done by the candidates.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
85% of our candidates have got criminal cases against them.
Yes,
Some
sir.
of them have got very severe cases like murder, raping and all these things. It's very sad actually. Something or other will happen. I'm very sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I
Let
think
the
we'll
Lord.
take one
Of
last
course,
question.
ultimately, as a very God-fearing person from South India, I have to say, Lord Krishna has told, I will come. Whenever there is I will come. Maybe we have to wait for him, right?
I think
Correct?
there's a question by Miss Desai, Yesha
Yeah.
Desai. Would you like to ask a question quickly?
Where is
Yesha?
she? Sangwan is from which part of the country?
Delhi, sir, Delhi.
Delhi. No, no, it can't be Delhi. It is some other
Sir, she is from
location.
Haryana, Jhajjar.
Haryana. Okay. Yeah. Where is the question? Desai?
I think she may have left, sir. So I don't know whether
Okay.
we can, I think, stop here.
Yeah.
Shraddha?
So I will leave it to the good hands of Shraddha ji.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much
So
again.
informally check, and if it is required, you organize some. I will
Sure,
be too
sir.
delighted, right?
Sure, sir.
Right.
Thank you
If
so much
Venkat is going to
again.
say something, I have to obey. That's all. No,
Okay, sir.
nothing. That is the what do you call a army principle.
All right, sir. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank
Now
you.
I would like to invite my colleague Raj for vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Shraddha.
Thank you very much, Gaur.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Vedanath
Thank you
sir,
so much,
for the
Gaur.
wonderful
There was
lecture.
one Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister, Sarjit Gaur, right?
Thank you so much, sir.
I am from Haryana, sir.
Huh?
I am from Haryana, sir.
Yeah, but there was one MP, if I remember.
Yeah.
He was the CM of MP.
Yes, sir. But those gods are different than we people.
Yeah, yeah.
They are tribals. We are Brahmins.
Okay. Don't shout it, right? Don't, because you may be immediately arrested under some, all these act. Hundreds of complications are there in India. So never you tell that actually, right? I'm just joking with you. Anyhow, okay. Obviously, he has to be a tribal because otherwise he couldn't have become chief minister, right? Correct?
Raj,
Okay.
go ahead. Raj, go ahead.
Sir,
Yeah.
thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful lecture.
Thank
It was
you.
a great, interactive, insightful, and interesting lecture.
So you are Patel, you are going to give the vote of thanks? No.
No, sir.
Who is giving Shraddha?
Raj, sir.
Rajkumar, sir. Is
Rajkumar, give.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful lecture. It was a great, interactive, insightful, and interesting lecture, and we learned many new things as international financial system, how it works, cryptocurrency, black money, tax havens, and other important aspects that are required to be understood for understanding the international monetary system. So thank you so much, sir, for giving us the time. I would also like to thank Dr. Akshat Mehta, sir, University Dean, who was available with us in the lecture. I don't know whether he is still here or not. And some other, directors of the other schools who just gave us the time for this lecture. Thank you so much, sir. Then I would like to thank to the participants for their valuable participation, active participation. It was a kind of active discussion which was required for understanding, having a deep understanding about the issues. So thank you so much. Then I would like to thank Venkat sir for his continuous support and motivation for such kind of things to organize such events. Then I would like to thank Dr. Shraddha for organizing this lecture, initiating this lecture series, and the other teammates like Dushyant, Anthea ma'am, Jessica ma'am, and Nobu. Thank you so much all. And now I would like to tell you that this is not the end of this lecture series actually. We will be organizing some more lectures on
Yes.
different topics that are of national importance
Correct.
for India. So we will be organizing them and slowly we will be, letting you know guys. So please be the part of those lectures as well so that we can create a kind of healthy environment about India's national security and discuss different dimensions that are required to be discussed. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks to Dr. Venkateshwaran. Thanks, Shraddha Ray, as well as Bimal Patel and Rajkumar for giving vote of thanks, as well as our students, Kritika, Saha, and two more, and my own good friend, Deepak Patel, because we share the similar type of. Actually, Sutar is also not very far, actually, in terms of our. I'm talking about what do you call? It's called
Yes,
India.
yes.
It is called India Shining. Have you heard about that India Shining campaign? So that is
Yes, sir.
where Deepak, myself, Sudhar, and others can be in the front row. Right. So I thank all of you, and we will be in touch. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sudha.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
very
so
much,
much,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All the best. Right.
Thank you, sir.